focusing on permaculture and sustainable ways of living. And one of the things they have in common is the system's dynamic. And a system is a self-supporting group of natural and/or human processes that support each other and function together and allow various types of energy and matter to cycle through. There are two different types of systems, which are human and natural, and there are many different types of natural systems at all levels in nature. For example, the biosphere contains all life on the planet and can be considered a system because all life inside it is related. A biome is a region of the biosphere that contains many ecosystems, and ecosystems are systems with living and non-living components that interact with each other. Hold on, it's not changing slides. Okay. So, since permaculture has been our focus, an ecosystem is a good example of a natural system because they have evolved over time to work in a successful way. Ecosystems include animals, plants, water features, and land features, all of which cycle energy and matter through to create a positive environment for everything living inside it. So there are many different components that make up an ecosystem. An example is the nitrogen cycle. And the nitrogen cycle is the system that allows nitrogen to cycle through air, life, and soil. Soil can absorb nitrogen in two ways, which is nitrogen fixation and ammonification. And nitrogen fixation is the process that bacteria in plants or the soil convert nitrogen in the atmosphere into ammonium. And ammonification also can use bacteria to make ammonia, but the bacteria converts organic matter instead of atmospheric nitrogen. Ammonium is a usable chemical for plant nutrition, but the process of nitrification takes it and converts it into nitrates and nitrites, which provide the plant with healthier nutrients. After these chemicals are used, the nitrogen will cycle back into the atmosphere through a process called denitrification. Similar to the nitrogen cycle, the phosphorus cycle is another system and a way that nutrients cycle through life. Unlike the nitrogen cycle, the phosphorus cycle doesn't move through air. Phosphorus originates in rocks and gets moved around through water, plants, and animals. For example, when one animal eats a plant, it will get the phosphorus that the plant absorbed, and plants absorb their phosphorus through their roots. The nitrogen and phosphorus that plants gather allow the process of photosynthesis to take place, which also converts light photons, which are absorbed by leaves, and water, which are absorbed by roots, into food. And the nitrogen and phosphorus are used to move energy molecules throughout the chloroplast, an organelle in the plant cell, which are then converted into food. Then that energy will go into the cellular respiration process, which is the process that plants and animals use to absorb nutrients from the food eaten. The difference between the way plants and animals get their food is plants use photosynthesis and animals directly eat the food. The end product of cellular respiration allows plants and animals to have energy necessary to live. These smaller processes are also systems in themselves, as they all cycle through energy or matter and assist the larger ecosystem. Human systems, they are on the other end of the spectrum for systems, and a good example of one is the industrial food system. The industrial food system is how most of us get our food, usually from grocery stores or restaurants. It values convenience for the customer and money for the corporations. This system works because the culture feeds the system, and the system feeds the culture. People prefer faster and a higher variety of food, and they want convenience, pushing us out of our older and more sustainable practices. This system is harder to break, as it has been perfected for our current values, and because many parts of the system support each other. The problem with the industrial food system is our priority on money, because to increase yield and production speed, our practices have led to monocropping using fertilizers and herbicides and pesticides. These pollute the earth's resources and destroy soil life, which is an unsustainable practice. Permaculture is a sustainable way of growing food that focuses on closing as many loops as possible to prevent waste and increase production by combining both types of these systems, human and natural. It will mimic natural systems to combine with human systems to meet our food needs. It eliminates the use of harmful fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides, because this is what we would think of as a void, and which would be filled naturally.
Okay.
Be back in a second. Alright, this is my property map that I designed for my house, and
Do you want to invite people?
yeah. And my goal for this was to balance aesthetics, food production, and add as much variety of food on the property as possible. So I guess I'll start with front yard. My plan for this area was to xeriscape it, which means use plants that don't require much water. And instead of growing food there, well, as a preference of my parents, they prefer that the front yard not look very agricultural. So I would just xeriscape it just for aesthetic quality, and then this would just be a garden that could attract beneficial insects to the rest of the property. And since there's not much water that's available there, besides being gutter, I decided that bringing in more water would not be very sustainable. Over here, I have a guild to work with my apple tree I have there. And guilds mimic parts of ecosystems at a smaller scale, since they show a system dynamic. And a guild uses plants that work together to share nutrients and provide other things such as mulching. And for example, so I have my apple tree in my backyard, and the plants I use to support it include comfrey for mulch, clover as a nitrogen fixer, and garlic to suppress grass. Guilds also eliminate monocropping because there's a diversity in plants, which allows all the benefits I said before. Over here, I have a greenhouse against a south-facing wall, so it will gain heat because it's south-facing from the sun, and the wall of my house will also provide thermal mass. Inside it, there's going to be an aquaponic system, and Avery Ellis, a guy who designs and builds aquaponic systems, he came and talked to us, and he interested me in this self-sustainable design. It mimics an aquatic ecosystem and also works as a system. And So basically how it works is plants purify the water for the fish. The fish waste will give nutrients to the plants, and the worms in the system will convert the fish waste into a usable form for the plants. For an example of something I grow, I could grow duckweed, which can also feed the fish, closing that inner loop, or that, closing another loop, and I can also grow any fruit or vegetable that the control environment will allow. So, this year, at the beginning, towards the beginning of the semester, we read Animal Vegetable Miracle, which is a local food success story, and it acts as a solution to the problem of the industrial food system. Barbara Kingsolver and her family ate and grew their own food locally for a year, and instead of protesting the local food system, they used the vote with your dollar mentality. Imagine if 20% of the people stopped buying from the industrial food system. It would promote healthier ways of eating, and it would economically damage big companies. So, systems are at all levels of nature and in the world's dynamics. Permaculture allows us to implement them into our lives by combining natural and human systems and create a healthy balance between feeding ourselves and preserving our planet. Thank you everyone for watching. Does anyone have any questions?